had been on a Swan Hellenic stroke saga cruise around the archaeological sites of the Mediterranean, but in truth there were more ancient relics on board than on the itinerary. After visiting Capri and the site of some of Tiberius's unmentionable but slightly thrilling debaucheries, we were to dock in Naples that evening. There was always an excited anticipation tinged with a slight nervousness about landing there. What state would the city be in? Would the criminals have taken over yet? What would be on strike this time? And would the army have been drafted in again? Nevertheless, I took my chance to escape for a couple of days and booked into an hotel free from the clatter of dentures. Naples was showing its normal attitude to public health, sanitation, and general cleanliness, but it was, from a distance, quite picturesque with a delicious frisson of illegality and lawlessness, and the same old tarts working the same old street corners. It was Christmas, and the crib makers were gearing up for festive sales, and the churches preparing for their busy time, apart from the frequent funerals, that is. On the surface, it seemed to be business as normal in Naples. People were doing their Christmas shopping, and some were even rumoured to be paying for it in one way or another. There were lots of ways to pay for services rendered in Naples. But there was something odd going on. There seemed to be civil unrest on the streets, and fires were breaking out all over the city. My hotel seemed an oasis of peace and quiet, but there was a call from the desk the next morning. It seemed there were some people in reception wanting to see me. Intrigued, I made my way down the main staircase to see who they were. My heart sank when I recognized them as being passengers from the ship. It seemed that the tour guide had vanished without trace, and that they were going to miss their trip to Pompeii and Herculaneum. Would I take them? I accepted the bundle of euros they proffered and took them to the Circumvesuviana railway to get it over with. Pompeii was deserted, and although some of the party seemed disappointed that it was in ruins, they seemed intrigued, especially with the dark and cavernous bathhouses. I had taken 10 people, but I couldn't help noticing as we returned to the station that there were only 6 following. No one seemed to know where the missing 4 had gone. As I had only agreed to show them the site, not to look after them or talk to them, I felt they should have been capable of looking after themselves, and that their disappearance was hardly my concern. Try prayer, I suggested. On the way back, the remaining members asked if I would be available the next day to show them the site to the north of the city. Somewhat reluctantly, I agreed. Back in the city, the shops were closed and barricaded, although the self-service petrol stations were still open. And also some of the delightful roadside refreshment stores. The next day, I took them to Posilipo to go and see the Phlegrean fields and the Solfatara. I did tell them not to stick their hands in the steam, and it's not my fault that they did. But the ambulance took hours to arrive. So then, there were 4. The remaining 4 didn't seem bothered and insisted I continue the tour. After all, they had paid for it. But it was at Kuma, in the cave of the Cumaean Sibyl, when things started getting really difficult. I made my solitary way back to Naples. The tour operator got terribly steamed up about it, told me not to travel on Saga ever again, and virtually accused me of being a mass murderer. Well, where are the bodies, I said. There was a boat leaving that evening for Genoa. Wisely, I think, I took it. That's when I gave up any ideas I'd ever had about being a travel courier. In retrospect, the only unanswered question I have about Naples is who exactly was in the bags? Well, perhaps I shouldn't be rude to assholes.